Indonesia is boiling over. Cities are filled with smoke and anger as protests sweep across the country against China's controversial projects. What was once promoted as development has now ignited chaos, pushing Indonesia into one of its deepest crises in decades. Welcome to China Undercover. Today we bring you the latest updates from Indonesia. For years, China has positioned itself as Indonesia's biggest partner, building railways, ports, and power plants under the Belt and Road banner. On paper, it looked like modernization. In reality, it has left Indonesia drowning in debt, dependency, and disillusion. Behind the glossy ribbon-cutting ceremonies are contracts hidden from the public, loans with punishing interest rates, and projects that bring in Chinese workers while leaving millions of Indonesians jobless. The anger doesn't stop with money. Across Sulawesi and Kalimantan, villagers accuse Chinese mining giants of poisoning rivers, destroying farmland, and stripping away livelihoods. Farmers, fishermen, entire communities are left abandoned, while politicians in Jakarta boast about progress and pocket the profits. Take the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail. Once hailed as a symbol of progress, it is now infamous for delays, skyrocketing costs, and corruption scandals. To ordinary Indonesians, these mega projects look less like national pride and more like traps designed to benefit Beijing and local elites. On the seas, resentment runs even deeper. Fishermen report being chased and harassed in waters claimed by China, fueling a sense that the nation's sovereignty is slowly being chipped away. It's not just about contracts and money anymore. It's about survival, independence, and dignity. For too long, this frustration was muted, but now it has erupted into the open. From Jakarta's financial heart to mining towns in the provinces, Indonesians are taking to the streets, demanding answers, and pushing back against a superpower they believe is exploiting their land, their people, and their future. This isn't just about Indonesia. It's a warning for the entire region. When promises of growth hide the cost of dependency, the people will rise. Indonesia is reaching a breaking point. From Jakarta to Surabaya, from Makassar to Medan, streets are flooded with people demanding change. What started as small student rallies has now exploded into a nationwide movement, uniting workers, villagers, and communities under one message: Indonesia must take back its future. The scenes are striking. In Jakarta, tens of thousands gather at the central square, waving banners that accuse the government of selling out to foreign influence. Police barricades line government offices, yet day after day, the crowds only grow. In Surabaya, students locked arms at the gates of a Chinese-backed power plant, facing off against riot police and water cannons. Clips of young Indonesians standing firm spread online, sparking waves of solidarity across the country. The unrest is not limited to major cities. In Sulawesi, where large nickel reserves are located, villagers have staged blockades to voice concerns about land use and environmental damage. In Kalimantan, anger over deforestation has sparked demonstrations, with indigenous groups calling for their rights to be respected. In Batam, factory workers have organized strikes over wages and job security. Despite media controls, photos and videos continue to circulate online. Political voices are also raising questions, urging the government to ensure transparency in major projects and financial agreements. Projects once hailed as milestones of progress, like the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, have instead become symbols of broken promises, corruption, and financial dependency. Critics warn that the nation is being dragged into a cycle where profits flow outward, debt piles up at home, and ordinary Indonesians are left behind. Meanwhile, Chinese officials insist everything is mutually beneficial, but behind the scenes, companies are fortifying sites and quietly pulling workers back. The embassy has urged Chinese nationals to avoid protest areas, signaling how serious the unrest has become. For everyday Indonesians, the costs are painfully real. Fishermen in Natuna say their waters are shrinking under pressure from foreign fleets. Farmers in Kalimantan see their soil ruined by polluted rivers. Workers in Sulawesi breathe in toxic air from smelters while still struggling to earn a living wage. This is no longer just a protest, it's a reckoning. A confrontation with the true price of dependency, economic strain, environmental damage, and questions of national sovereignty. Years of silent frustration have erupted into a single, unified voice. and that voice is growing louder every day. One of the biggest sparks behind Indonesia's unrest is the environmental fallout of foreign-backed projects. In Sulawesi's nickel belt, rivers that once ran clear now flow dark with pollution from smelters. Fishermen say their nets come up empty, farmers complain their fields are poisoned, and families report rising cases of illness. The promises of green safeguards remain empty words, and those who dare to speak out often face threats. In Kalimantan, rainforests have been cleared for palm oil and mining, displacing indigenous communities and erasing traditions. Villagers face polluted water, lost farmland, and fading cultural identity. Their protests are about survival, not money, and that struggle has fueled a nationwide movement. At the heart of the anger is sovereignty. Many Indonesians feel their leaders have surrendered too much control of resources and infrastructure. The Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, once a proud symbol of progress, is now viewed as a debt-heavy burden and a sign of dependency. The tension is heightened by events at sea. Around the Natuna Islands, Chinese vessels repeatedly enter Indonesia's exclusive waters. While officials in Jakarta play down the incidents, fishermen who rely on those waters feel their livelihoods slipping away. On land and sea alike, the sense is unmistakable. Indonesia is being boxed in. That perception has fueled a surge in nationalist sentiment, with opposition, politicians calling out the government, and crowds chanting for independence from foreign dominance. Whether fair or not, this framing resonates deeply with ordinary people who feel betrayed. Together, three forces, economic dependency, environmental destruction, and the fear of losing sovereignty, have set the stage for today's crisis. What we are witnessing in Jakarta's streets is not random unrest, but the eruption of anger built up over years of broken promises. Unless these root issues are confronted, the protests will not fade. They will intensify, shaping the country's politics, society, and its future relations with China. In rural areas, farmers watch their rivers poisoned and their crops fail, forcing them to abandon land their families have tended for generations. Many migrate to cities, only to end up in slums with little hope of steady work. The ripple effects are everywhere. Jakarta, Surabaya, and Medan face rising waves of rural migrants living in precarious settlements. Schools see children pulled out of classrooms because parents can't afford fees, while youth in devastated regions grow disillusioned, seeing no future in farming and no entry into industries dominated by foreign contractors. This growing frustration among young Indonesians, one of the country's largest demographics, has made them the driving force in the streets today. This is more than a protest. It is a reckoning over the future of Indonesia, its land, its people, and its independence. Beyond the economic and environmental costs, Indonesia is now facing a deep psychological strain. Villagers and workers describe rising anxiety, despair, and a growing sense of abandonment. Many believe their leaders put foreign interests first, leaving ordinary people powerless. In mining towns, stories of desperation quietly surface, while activists who raise concerns risk being silenced. With few other outlets, protests have become the only way for people to be heard. The unrest has even taken on a social dimension. Tensions spill over onto Chinese Indonesian communities and businesses, many of which have no direct ties to Beijing's policies, but still face suspicion and hostility. This adds a dangerous layer to what began as frustration over jobs and resources. The damage extends beyond Indonesia's borders. Investors are growing wary, and images of clashes on the streets circulate worldwide, harming tourism and weakening international confidence. The result is a vicious cycle. Unrest scares away investment, which deepens economic pain, which in turn fuels more unrest.
They say if you can't find a job, it's because your expectations are too high. I went all the way to Guizhou for an opening. Over 700 people applied. I scored 92nd, but only the first place got hired. I studied computer science, yet no one replies to my resumes. At this point, just landing any job feels like a blessing. Scroll through Douyin. 9 out of 10 videos are people crying. Even supermarket owners are weeping. No customers, no business. A man with 14 years in clothing says he's never seen it this bad. Even government offices are cutting back. Official cars must be domestic, No cigarettes, no alcohol, no motai, no hotels for office use. Brothers, life is unbearable. Jobs are so scarce I've almost given up applying. At over 60, in 40-degree heat, I work until I feel dizzy, because if I skip even one day, my family has nothing to eat. I invested 800,000 yuan and 4 years into a shop. It vanished without a ripple. I don't dare start again. In Baoshan, buses run empty. Factories have shut down. Air conditioners stripped away. The economy is collapsing. Factories are bankrupt one after another. In a few years, even a simple laborer's job will be hard to find. Machines are replacing people. A line that once needed 20 workers now uses only 2. Bosses say machines don't complain, don't eat, don't rest, and work 24 hours non-stop. Delivery riders fight for scraps. I worked 5 hours in the sweltering sun for just over 100 yuan. Streets are full of riders, even students. People who used to order food now deliver it themselves. I've been unemployed for a month. My wife's factory has no work either. She sits in her room all day. We just stare at each other while our savings drain away. I thought about delivering food. She begged me not to. It's exhausting, dangerous, and barely pays. Then what should I do? Farmers, too, are suffering. I met a 69-year-old man unloading 8 tons alone in nearly 40-degree heat. He smiled bitterly. We farmers have it the hardest. China's economy is in free fall. A wave of unemployment has swept across industries. Factories shuttered, salaries cut. Layoffs everywhere. Millions can't find jobs. Desperation is spreading. It's too hard. We can't live anymore. Analysts warn that as the downturn deepens, people's lives will worsen, and unrest is inevitable until even the CCP's grip begins to shake. Across the country, authorities are tracking the so-called 4 no's: unmarried, childless, no house, no savings. These people, with nothing to lose, are seen as dangerous, capable of extreme retaliation if pushed. Their numbers are rising fast. I regret coming to Shenzhen. No job, no money, no food, no place to stay. I knock on factory doors before 8 a.m., but most don't provide meals or housing. Even if hired, I couldn't afford to survive here. And then there's us, the laid off. Yesterday, our company looked fine. This morning, all work groups were dissolved with 2 announcements. Overnight, we became like livestock without pasture. We once sold hundreds of millions in live stream sales. Now it's gone. Collapsed so fast, I didn't even have time to feel unemployed. Like a child shot from a skilled doctor. Before you can cry, it's already over. Look around. This is the migrant workers' market. Mostly heavy labor and odd jobs, but strangely it's filled with middle-aged and elderly people, not the young. Why? Because factories aren't hiring. The jobs here are exhausting, wages low, and many are deceived. Told meals are included, but in the end, not even a proper meal is provided. This year is even worse than last year, a sign that fewer and fewer people remain. In Xi'an, the tourism market is collapsing. It's already late July, yet hotels are empty. Room rates are down, occupancy is down, revenue is down. Not just one hotel, but across the city.